Pat Mayo Experience. We're getting to the end of our baseball prep before the season starts. So today, win totals. National League win totals. We got to start with the senior circuit, or as they say in Puerto Rico, the Senor circuit. Garion Thorne's here.
Hi.
That's how they do in Puerto Rico.
I've heard many times. Yeah.
Song Tim's never heard before.
He's heard it.
No, he may not have. He drives around in his car listening to Rush Limbaugh all day.
I don't know why I did this, but I got really high and watched the new Death Wish movie last night.
Oh, there's a new Death Wish?
There's a new Death Wish with a Bruce Willis that just doesn't care anymore. Which is, it's hilarious in how bad it is, but there is like a composite Rush Limbaugh radio personality they keep cutting to.
Is it played by Cust?
No, but it could be. But it's always him juxtaposed with like Sway in the Morning, and I'm like, why did he agree to do this? I just, nothing about this movie makes sense. Like I read one review and it was just like, this was really poorly timed. It's like, yeah, it really is. Because it's just Bruce Willis finding out online, like he's got to protect his family with a gun, and then like, oh, I'll watch these videos that are easily accessible on the internet to figure out how to use guns. And they'll occasionally put in like a little thread to be like, hey, just a reminder, guns are dangerous. But like, back to Bruce Willis blowing people up.
Perfect.
It's like, really is a movie of our time.
All right, National League win totals. I do want to let everyone know to give the episode a like, a thumbs up. And if you're listening to this on the audio version, please go rate, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. It helps people find the show. That's all I'm asking for you, for some free content. Probably poor advice, but free nonetheless. You don't have to take it. You're not paying for it, so who really cares? I mean, and Garion does know his stuff. I don't know anything about baseball, but here's the thing. Give it a like, leave a review, and now we'll get to Tim Undergust!
Tim Undergust.
That is not my name.
Heard it was.
No, and I can only imagine how terrible the new Death Wish has to be.
It's not good. It's
no, I mean, like the original Death Wish is amazing, in part because it's set in the 1970s when what Charles Bronson's doing makes a lot of sense, because there's a ton of crime and violence in New York that just doesn't exist now.
Well, they moved it to Chicago, where there is still a ton of crime and violence. Yeah. It's just really tone deaf. But it's also funny, the guy who plays the cop, the lead detective, is Hank from Breaking Bad.
Oh!
And
I think I've seen all 5 or 6 Death Wishes. And
I think there's 5.
Did you see the one did you see like Death Wish 8 when it's just Charles Bronson in bed? And, I wish I was dead.
That is a cheap Simpsons reference.
All right, let's get into this. So, Tim, in honor of you doing these win totals, and again, I do want to let people know, if you're looking for all the Pat Mayo Experience fantasy baseball draft prep, just look at the description. All the links are right there. Boom. Again, free. Give it a like. Thank you. Cincinnati Reds get the first win total here to start the season. Tim, are you impressed by that?
I'm impressed that you are showing some sort of connection to history, yes.
All right, so over under 73.5 wins, 30-1 to win the division, 125-1 to win the National League, 250-1 to win the World Series. They were 68 and 94 last year. Garion, we'll go to you first. Why are the Reds so bad?
Mostly a lack of good players.
Oh, okay.
I would say.
Talent devoid?
Yeah, being devoid of talent holds them back slightly. This for me is, I mean, it sucks to start so tepid off the top, but like this is a no bet for me. I think they don't get to 74 wins.
But they could.
So I would take the under here if forced to do so, but the Reds are just one of those teams. Even a couple years ago, they started kind of hot out of the gate.
Who's their best pitcher?
That's a great question.
Who's a pitcher on the Reds?
I mean, DeSclafani's okay, but he's always hurt.
Oh my God, he's their best guy?
I mean, it really...
Didn't they move him to the bullpen at one point?
Yeah. I mean, I just, that's, a lot of these teams, it's interesting in the NL specifically, there's a lot of teams that are just, on paper, if you're looking at the offensive side of things, you can kind of start to formulate arguments like, oh, there's some capable offensive players in Cincinnati, like obviously Votto is still kind of the big force in the middle of this lineup. He was one of the best players in the National League last year.
Should they trade him, or is his contract too big?
It's a big contract, there's a lot of years left on it, but they could still probably trade him for something. I'm kind of surprised they haven't. It seems like he's also in a weird spot where he's vocal about how he wants to go somewhere and win, but I don't think he's the kind of guy who's constantly just demanding a trade. I think he's kind of passive about it. So something might happen in that regard at some point this season. And obviously, if they trade Votto at any point this year, they're going under this number. But they've got they've got a capable outfield. I mean, Schebler was all right last season too. Like, they're going to hit some home runs. They're going to score runs more often than
Good
not.
ballpark.
But their pitching is just terrible. Their bullpen's not awful. Like, Raciel Iglesias is a really nice closing option. He can go multiple innings, which is cool too. Like, they're doing some cool stuff. Brian Price is making interesting decisions with a bad team, which is what you kind of have to do. Be experimental, see what you have. But they're just not good, and this is a good division. So I'm going to say take the under just because they're the worst team in a division that could have 3 teams above 500, 3 teams that have to play 57 times this year. But I don't feel super confident about it. I don't really have a great read on the Reds because they're not really on anyone's radar.
Well, maybe Tim has a great read on the Reds.
Possible.
Tim?
No, I don't like the team. I mean, other than 2 hitters, no one else really matters.
Okay, how about we phrase it this way? Would you take the over, what do you think is more? Over under 73.5 wins for Cincinnati or over under 73.5 steals for Billy Hamilton?
I would take the over on that for Billy Hamilton.
Yeah.
I think he's a player. I think Votto's probably going to win the batting title in the National League. That's what I'd pick anyway. Other than that, there's not a whole lot here that interests me. Because I have to take an under here because I have a couple of rather big overs in this division that require me to take some unders.
I thought he might go in that direction.
We need to find the team. This happened 2 years ago. I'm trying to think about when we did this. We took the Phillies over,
Yeah.
and it was like 60.
Yeah.
And then they clinch it by like August.
That's the American League Central.
I have that team, but it's in the other league.
Yeah, the
Okay.
American League Central is where we're going to find our team that's like,
It is
wow,
not in the
someone
Central.
has
One
to
of
be
these
better.
3 bad teams
Yeah.
is going to win 75 games
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was Houston the year that they broke out. They were like 59.5 wins. It's like, that's just too low.
Or there was
You
a
can
team
luck
in the
into it.
There was a team in the NFL this season that was projected to do really poorly.
Oh,
And,
the Jets.
No, it's the Jaguars.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
Rams, which I was told couldn't possibly get to the number, got there by Thanksgiving.
That's true.
Thanksgiving. See, that's what you should have went back and watched at a Death Wish.
All to be carved.
Thanksgiving.
I'm out right now.
All
What is
right.
this?
It's in Grindhouse. Anyway.
Oh,
It's one
wow.
of the short Grindhouse movies.
I've only seen Grindhouse once.
And when you said Death Wish, the new Death Wish, I thought you were meaning Death Proof. And they made a new Death Proof movie.
I would have much rathered that. Unfortunately, no.
Well, great talk about the Cincinnati Reds. Pittsburgh Pirates, 74.5 wins, 20-1 for the division, 40-1 to win the pennant, 80-1 to win the World Series, 75 and 85 last year. It's funny that their odds are significantly better to win the division, pennant, and World Series than the Reds, but they're only projected to win one more game.
There's some weird numbers like that.
When we get to the NL West, there's a
Yeah,
really
there's a
weird one.
really strange one, but I think it's the same factor. I think it's still public perception. I think there is still a perception that the Pirates are a functional major league franchise. And you know what? Their opening day lineup, from the offensive perspective at the very least, is not terrible. There were a lot of moves.
Is Talion their ace?
I guess. Yeah, I mean, him or Nova. Nova's going to probably start opening day. And Nova's fine.
Like Ivan Nova?
Yeah.
That does not inspire confidence.
No,
for
but
Nova.
again, he is sort of the guy who he should be your 4th or 5th starter. I understand that, but he's also like one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball. You know exactly what version of Ivan Nova you're getting every time he takes the mound. So there is some value in consistency. Unfortunately, they don't have a ton of that in the back end of their rotation. But offensively, like, you would think they would have lost Josh Harrison this season, but it was a weird free agent market, and he just kind of comes back. And you're like, okay, cool. Josh Harrison's like a really valuable piece.
And he'll play every position.
But between Polanco and Marte, if they're going to get over this number, those guys have to play to the potential that we think they have. The problem is, even if they're starting to do that, the odds they both get through a season at 100% health is somewhat questionable. I think I like them over this number, but again, not in a very confident fashion. I think it's like a 77, 76 win team, and it's pretty uninspiring as it happens. Like they're not going to be that great this year. They're not going to make a lot of noise. And the pitching is really suspect.
Tim, are you in on suspect pitching but potentially good hitters? That sounds like you.
No, I think this team is trash. I think it's the worst team in the division. I think it'll probably win 65 to 68 games. I actually like the under quite a bit. It's one of my 3 best bets in the National League is the Pirates under. There's just no talent. I mean, there's a couple of decent hitters, but the pitching staff is garbage, and you can pitch around decent hitters in the National League. So I'm just not worried about this team. I think they're absolutely putrid.
So slight over from you, Garion.
Yeah.
Strong under. Would you call this bet free money, Tim?
No, it's not free money. There's another. No, it is not free money.
So I'm the deciding vote here. So we went under on Cincinnati. I'll go with Tim on this one. I'll believe Tim. He didn't say it was free money, so he might be right on this one. Gotta wait till we get to some free money.
Again, they're not inspiringly good by any means.
All right, so the team with the second highest projected win total in the division, the St. Louis Cardinals, 85.5 wins, plus 375 to win the division, 10-1 pennant, 20-1 to win the World Series, 83-79 last year. Do the Cardinals still get overinflated by these win totals because people love to bet the Cardinals?
I think they are still a very public team. I was a little surprised this number was as high as it was because I like the Cardinals this year, but I think this was sort of the range, the 87, 86 win range that I liked them in. I was hoping to see like an 83.5, 84.5, but yeah, they're a public team, so maybe that extra game is kind of just built in. I still think they go over this number. I really like what they've done. We talked about this a little bit when I liked Dexter Fowler and Matt Carpenter.
You like all of their players as bounce-back players?
Well, I mean, bounce-back players in a way, but even if they don't bounce back, even if they are just who they were last season but stay healthy, they're still a team that just is going to be on the base paths all of the time. And I think they've got some back-end pitchers. Unlike where we look at Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and go, okay, there's question marks on the back end of the rotation, but the answer to those questions is definitely bad. Like Miles Mikolas, I don't know if he's going to be like this guy who comes over from Korea and all of a sudden is amazing, but I think he could be a very capable major league pitcher. He's got some velocity on his fastball. That's cool. I have my questions about the authenticity of Luke Weaver's strikeout rate, but he's also just someone who's very talented. He's a good back-end option that they have. Wainwright might be done, so they might need
Don't say that, Tim. Wainwright might be done?
He is not done. In fact, he was last year's Silver Slugger in the National League. He'll be fine.
Wait, who? What?
Yeah, Wainwright was a Silver Slugger at pitcher in the National League last year.
To be honest, I was not aware they handed out Silver Sluggers for pitchers. That is the dumbest award in baseball.
Well, they're a player who hits, and it's a position, so why wouldn't they offer?
We're not going to get into this.
No, we should really get into it. That's why he's good. He's their best hitter, Garion. How could they lose?
This is my strongest bet in the division. So I have three strong bets in the NL, and there are two in the NL Central. I absolutely adore the Cardinals this year. I don't know if I have the guts to pick them to win the division, but I think there's significant value on the plus 375, the plus 1,000 for the pennant, and the 20-1 to win the World Series. I think I would take all of those things. I absolutely adore this team. A player like Tommy Pham, I think, doesn't get enough attention. He's a marvelous player. I care for Ozuna quite a bit. Fowler, their pitching staff. I believe I'm a Weaver believer 100%. I still think Wainwright's fine. I still like Waka. There are players. There's just this in a National League Central where there are two teams that are terrible, one team that is very mediocre in the Brewers, and then of course an excellent Cubs team. There's just so many wins for teams for a team like St. Louis, who's a better than average team to gobble up, that I think they cruise over 85.5. I think this is a 93 win team.
Now,
it's strong, but I agree with what he's saying in theory.
But here's the thing. He may think that Luke Weaver is Jared Weaver because he would not give up on Jared Weaver until like 2 years after he was out of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that is a problem of mine, that I do hang on to things for too long in baseball. Nevertheless, I just think this Cardinals team is excellent. I'll reveal my National League pick to win the pennant at the end of the podcast, but the Cardinals are in strong consideration, let's say.
So 85.5 is the over-under. Both of you are going over. Do you think that Adam Wainwright hits more than 85.5 home runs this year, Tim? Maybe he'll win the Gold Slugger Award.
Yeah, maybe he will. Gold Glove and Silver Slugger. This Cardinals team is loaded top to bottom.
Carlos Martinez considered their ace?
That's fine. I like
Martinez.
Martinez.
He'd be ace in just about any baseball team.
Yeah,
any baseball team. He's any baseball team.
Just about.
That's not really a lie. He's a top 20 pitcher in baseball. Carlos Martinez is the kind of guy, like we talked about Ivan Nova being a laughable opening day starter. But again, Martinez will have 4 games this year where he shows up and can't hit the broadside of the barn, and you're like, oh, okay, we're going to lose these games. But more often than not, he's fantastic and filthy. So yeah, Martinez is fine. The only glaring issue I can see with this team, and I don't even think it's that bad, but from a public perception where this number might move, is people will be like, oh, but they don't have a closer.
Oh no!
So
don't they have Greg Gregerson, aka Luke Gregerson?
Luke Gregerson.
I still like the name Greg Gregerson better.
Again, they've got capable back end options.
Like Tyler Leon.
But none of them might have that closer mentality, so I have to take the under. If that happens, Bucks for us.
What happened to the O-face? Where's he going?
Toronto.
Oh, God, really?
He's currently having visa issues.
Oh, that's not good. Does he have like a DUI in a different country?
I don't
That's why he
know.
can't
I don't
get
know
in?
why he's having visa issues. They might be resolved at this point, but I know a week ago he was.
All right, so the Cubs are the favorite of the NL Central, 93.5 wins. They were 92-70 last year, and it really seemed like they underachieved for a lot of the season. Is that fair to say? They still won 92 games?
Yeah. I mean, their pitching staff was sort of strange last year, and I think that, to me, is maybe the one thing that's holding me back from making them a 94-95 win team is, like, John Lester's a really capable starter. I have no problems with John Lester. I do really like you. I think
Thank you.
I think
The Cubs
Darvish
didn't watch the
welcome.
World Series.
But here's the thing, and I've talked about this before.
Yeah, he can't be in baseball anymore because he pitched poorly in the World
No,
Series.
but they paid him a lot of money for a guy who was absolutely putrid in the World Series.
Yes,
and in the playoffs in general.
But again, I think that when I heard that he was tipping his pitches, you're like, oh, thank God. There was a tangible reason as to why he was so poor in this series. And I think they probably got him at a discount. Like, I really like what they did. I think he had the underlying stats say he had a much better second half than the surface numbers would indicate. He just got a little unlucky. And I'm willing to buy into that with a guy who is a strikeout artist like Yu Darvish is. So there's some holes that, like, Tyler Chatwood's a really interesting piece. Like, I think he's someone who, especially with the way that Wrigley can kind of just be a different field on any given day.
So what you're saying is that getting out of Colorado might be good for Tyler Chatwood?
Well, it's definitely good, but I'm just saying, like, the skill set that Chatwood had that made him so valuable in Colorado was he's an extreme ground ball pitcher, which is what you have to be in Colorado. Wrigley doesn't really have that rep, but if the winds are blowing out in Wrigley, like we saw this at times last year, like you just have to flick your bat and the ball leaves the park. Like, so Chatwood could be very valuable in certain situations for them. They've got some back-end depth. Obviously, they're a team that offensively runs like 11 players deep. And that's kind of why, for fantasy purposes, they're so annoying, because you look at this team, the only two guys projected to have over 515 plate appearances
Chris Bryant and Rizzo?
are Bryant and Rizzo, because they've got so many movable pieces. You almost feel like in the way that Steve Kerr sometimes is just like, hey, Draymond, coach, because who the hell cares? Like, Joe Madden's just sitting there like, I don't know, maybe I'll do this today because I can, and who cares? So I do think they go over this number, but again, I think it's a slight over. It's not something I'm like, go bet this right now. I think I'd be more inclined to bet St. Louis's over than Chicago's.
They're minus 175 to win the division, 4-1 to win the NL, 9-1 to win the World Series. Tim, I have a feeling you're going to say the Cubs are overrated.
No, I think they're properly rated. I think they're like a 94, 95 win team.
So you're taking the over?
Ever so slightly, would not bet it. I think there's a little bit of value with the 9-1 at the World Series on the Cubs. Just if they were to get to the playoffs, they'd be much shorter than 9-1 to win the World Series. I mean, I think that both they and St. Louis are marvelous teams. They're both playoff teams. The Cubs, though, are slightly better. And so I will take the rover, but with hesitation. I would not be shocked if the Cardinals ended up beating the Cubs out for the division, but one would be foolish not to pick the Cubs.
Well, the other team that's kind of lingering around here, the Brewers, 84.5 wins. They have the same odds as the Cardinals to win the division, plus 375. 10-1 to win the pennant, 20-1 to win the World Series, exactly the same as the St. Louis Cardinals. They were 86 and 76 last year. Why are they better this year than last year?
Well, they just brought in better players.
That helps.
I mean, Christian Yelich.
Did they give Eric Thames some steroids?
No, but this is the thing. This is maybe the most Jekyll and Hyde team in the National League, in the sense that when you look at the offensive side of things, they have the potential to be one of the best lineups in baseball, and they also have one of the best benches in baseball. Like, Eric Thames is probably going to be a situational hitter this season, a platoon-type bat, and he tapered off to a great extent last season.
Oh, I actually tuned out midway through May. I assume he had 140
just the best player in baseball. But he's a capable situational hitter. Eric Sogard came out of nowhere and just decided, I'm going to be an on-base maven. Like, they've got some pieces here. Jonathan Villar could bounce back and be a very, very valuable player. But again, someone like Christian Yelich, who I've always been anti because of our job, which is...
Because he hits the ball into the ground?
I don't think he's a great fantasy commodity, but much like a guy like Marcus Stroman, who I'm always anti in fantasy purposes, much more valuable real-life player. Christian Yelich is like a 6-win player. It's really, really good. Lorenzo Cain, even at this point in his career, is
gotta be Cain!
A 3.5, 4.5 win player. Domingo Santana, who just doesn't...
You hate, by the way.
But again, the purposes I hate Domingo Santana are, I don't know when he gets at bats, because they've got 4 capable outfielders. I mean, Ryan Braun probably just going to get hurt at some point, which clears up this entire mystery.
Is Ryan Braun still good?
He's all right. He's all right when he plays.
Well, what's
that? Trying him out at first base?
They're trying him at first base?
They're trying him at first base. He's already come out and said publicly, like, I don't feel comfortable doing this.
Well, I remember when Ryan Braun first came into the majors and he was a third baseman. And for whatever reason that year, our league had errors.
Oh, God.
As a fantasy stat, and he was like a plus player in every category. But I think he led the league in errors that year. I don't think I want Ryan Braun handling too many ground balls.
No, and also just changing his body mechanics at this point in his career when he hasn't been able to withhold the regular body mechanics of an outfielder. Like, I don't think his archetype is not made to be like, hey, guy over 30 who hasn't had 600 plate appearances since 2008. Let's change everything you do. It just seems like a bad just trajectory right now for that team. But anyway, they've got the pieces to replace him, is the point I'm trying to make. But pitching staff.
Here's what worries me. Chase Anderson.
Yeah.
Yolis's Pieces Chassin.
Yeah.
Great streamer, by the way. I'm
not
always
terrible,
a fan of streaming Yoli Chassin. Zach Davies, Junior Guerrera, and Wade Miley. People are real.
Glardo.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Giovanni Gallardo he's their long man in the pen. No, he came back. He came back after taking the...
He was in Texas.
He was in Texas. He was in Baltimore. He was in Seattle. Which means those are three teams that haven't had a decent pitcher in like 17 years.
Also, our friend with dyslexia in our fantasy baseball league does call him Glardo. Yo. He either has, we pretend like he has dyslexia. He just can't read. He's illiterate.
Here's the thing. Them losing Jimmy Nelson is massive. Now, Nelson could be back in like August, which I was going to make the point that the thing that makes me worry that if you do like Milwaukee and you go like, oh, I'm going to take their World Series odds, I think you have to look at this and go, the Cubs are probably going to win this division, which means if Milwaukee's making the playoffs, they're going to have to play in the one-game wild card. They're going to be the underdog in a one-game wild card, even if it's played in Milwaukee.
How dare you disrespect Chase Anderson?
Look, and I like Chase Anderson, and I appreciate the fact that when you look at what he did last season, there's, again, a tangible reason as to why he was better. His velocity uptick was massive and justified a lot of what happened, but he also had a crazy low home run to fly ball ratio considering his ballpark and just the era of baseball we play in. His BABIP was super low. His strand rate was super high. Like, everything about him screams regression. And Steamer has him as like a 4.5 ERA guy, and I think that might be a little extreme, but I think he is more towards the like 3.9, 3.95 end of the spectrum as opposed to where he was last season. And when that's your ace for the first 5 months of the season, I just don't think there's a game where someone's trotting out to the mound for them and I'm like, oh, I'm confident in this person.
Their bullpen doesn't look so bad.
It's okay, but even Niebel, like I like Niebel a lot, but his glaring flaw, much like, he's sort of like National League Dellin Betances, where sure, he might strike out everyone he faces, he might also walk 7 batters in a row. So with the small sample sizes bullpens have to deal with, like, Niebel could be a guy who's got a 5 ERA at the end of the season. He's going to strike out everyone, but there's some parts of worry here. Like, I feel like, Tim, you're also going to be in the under here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you either have to be on St. Louis or Milwaukee in this division, and I just think that pitching staff is not great, and I don't love the hitters as much as you do. I looked at them, I thought they're an 81-win club, so I don't think 84.5 is reasonable. I think the under is the play.
Are you in or out on Ryan Braun? He's about old enough now that you'll be all in.
I mean, I think Ryan Braun is an okay player. I'm not this year in fantasy, I've been lilting more towards younger players instead of older players.
Oh, this is a dramatic shift in philosophy for you.
I feel like he's trying to get us off his tail.
He's just, yeah, we're doing our draft in like 5 days, so he's trying to get us off here. Like, who do you think has more home runs, Ryan Braun or Adam Wainwright? He was a Silver Slugger, you know.
He was a Silver Slugger.
That's why he's so good. So you're on the under?
R.A. Dickey's really good because he's a Gold Glove winner, and that adds important stuff to his starting repertoire.
You sound like a Jays fan that I saw outside earlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same voice and everything. Oh, Jays so sick. Go win World Series.
You're going to make fun of me so much when I take the Jays over, but I'm still taking the over.
A pitcher being able to field his position is so meaningless.
No, it's not meaningless, but like it's one of those. It's like a tiebreaker, really. It's like, oh, that's a nice.
Also,
bonus.
the Gold Glove is meaningless because they just give it to the same fucking guy every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Greg Maddux, best fielder of all time. He won 87 consecutive Gold Gloves. Sure.
He might have actually been the best fielding pitcher of all time.
Sure, but you think at every single one of those years he was the best guy. Or do you think people are like, I don't care about pitcher defense. I'll just write in Greg Maddux because he won before.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point.
Like Derek Jeter.
So bad.
Almost 10-time Gold Glove winner?
I don't know if he got to 10.
In an era when like Omar Vizquela was around?
Yeah, it was bad. And we had arguments in college with baseball fan, Toronto generic baseball fan.
No.
Derek Jeter's got
so
10
sick.
Gold Gloves. Jump throw. Jump throw. You're like, okay, great.
Thanks.
Elvis Andrus is better though.
All right, so for the NL Central, who's your pick to win the division, Garion?
Cubs. But I think Tim's right in saying that if you're going to bet this and you want to bet this at value, betting St. Louis for the potential and just the fact that this Cubs rotation has a 15% chance of falling apart, that's probably your best value play.
Tim, you're taking the Cubs?
I am because I'm gutless, but I'll take St. Louis as a wild card for sure.
Okay, let's move to the NL West. The San Diego Padres. 71.5 wins is the over-under. 30 to win the division, 100 to win the pennant, 200 to win the World Series, 71 and 91 in 2017. I put this out on Twitter. I released the same sheet that I'm looking at right now with all the odds of both leagues. Multiple people told me the Padres are a sleeper team. Is that true? That can't be true.
I don't know. I think there's this perception of San Diego that
It's pronounced San Diego.
That they have some younger, interesting players.
Like backup catcher A.J. Ellis?
Yes, like backup catcher A.J. Ellis. They're a team that I again look at the rotation, I look at the bullpen, and you have to kind of think too, like what's their thought process going into this season?
Is Tyson Ross healthy? Or is
Healthy is an interesting word.
Well, is he going to like over under 10 starts for Tyson Ross?
Under, maybe.
Okay, so
But
that's not good.
here's the thing,
That's not
the
really
way-
that's
the
not
way
really
he-
helping out the rotation with Brian Mitchell and Luis Perdomo.
I mean, Perdomo's a ground ball wizard, but
So is Tyson Ross.
when he's healthy. The problem is they've got so many guys in this team who've had thoracic outlet surgery, which has like only been performed on like 15 dudes, and it seems like no one has ever come back from it and been good. So they've got that going against them. I also just think like much like last season, it didn't actually end up happening, but you look at like Brad Hand, like there's no reason Brad Hand should be on this team.
He's the closer.
But that's the thing. It's like at some point they're going to decide that we're not winning this division. We're not making the playoffs.
So okay, is there the possibility for the Padres to be like, we're so bad, we'll tank, but when they start tanking, they actually get better?
Oh, sort of like a major league scenario?
Well, not even that. It's just if they get rid of like some of these duds who are on the team right now, it's like, just let the young guys play.
No, because like Brad Hand's good. Brad Hand's really good. But just like their best players, you would think at some point they look at them and go, we should trade you for an asset. Like,
Okay.
So
it's the other way.
I just think they're a team that at some point is going to realize like there's no reason we should aim to win 73 games this season.
They have Freddie Galvis.
Freddie Galvis is useful.
He hits singles.
And he's a decent defender. He's a useful player.
Tim, are you buying in on the Padres sleeper hype?
Well, I mean, they have to play all their games at the StubHub Center at home, which is a disadvantage. Oh, wait, sorry, Padres. No.
No.
I think this team is not good. I like I like Headley and I like Hosmer. I think they're very competent players.
Isn't Will Myers their best player?
Yeah. Again, they're okay.
What about Manuel Margot Martindale?
People like Manuel Margot, but I think he's
character actress.
character actress.
I am going to take their under because I have some other overs in this division. So, I mean, I have to find an under somewhere.
I'm going to circle that one as a strong over without.
Yeah,
that's definitely an
I
over
agree
for
with
Tim.
that one though.
I'm just sort of ice cold on the
Also,
Padres.
the one above it too definitely is.
They seem like to me a 68 to 71 win team. So I guess that makes. I wouldn't bet it, but I don't like them.
Are you going over or under?
I'm taking the under, but again, I've got some strong feelings about the other teams in this division, but this is not one I'm like, go run to a bookie and bet this. I don't see the point.
In some places in the world, you can just go online and bet it. You don't even have to
No,
interact
I
with
like the personal
unless you use
interaction.
that like MyBookie app.
I like to know some guy might cut my leg off.
Yeah, you break your legs if you don't pay up.
Yeah.
Johnny Knuckles.
Yeah, it's motivation.
Colorado, 80.5 wins. 6.5 to win the division, 11 to win the pennant, 22 to win the World Series, 87 and 75 last season. That's, they're projected for.
Begging you to take the over.
They are begging you to take the over.
Begging.
I kind of want to take the over because it feels like.
Don't do it.
Feels like, because this has been bet down. Mm-hmm. So you're getting plus money. Everyone's taking the under on this.
Yep.
No one is convinced on Colorado. Maybe it will just be fine.
Here's the thing, and I guess you have to decide if you're in the Colorado and Coors Field is a saving grace for them, and they've constructed a team that is meant to play 81 games and take advantage of 81 games at Coors Field, or if just, the other team also gets to play at Coors whilst Colorado is playing at Coors, that's going to be a problem. Because if you look at the adjusted statistics that take ballpark out of the equation, they were one of, fine, fair, but I'm just saying, if you do perchance want to look at that, Colorado was terrible offensively last season. The only 3 teams with a worse WRC plus were Pittsburgh, San Diego, and San Francisco. Their offense was, aside from Nolan Arenado and Charlie Blackmon,
come on.
terrible.
They also have DJ LeMahieu.
I mean, LeMahieu's a fine average guy.
Probably the best hitter in the division other than maybe Goldschmidt. Maybe he's even better than Goldschmidt.
That's fine. It's okay to have a great singular player, but as you talked about in the National League.
I'm on the under here with Colorado as well. Again, I just don't think this team. I think this team overachieved last year, to be perfectly frank with you. And I think their pitching.
I think John Gray is really good.
John Gray's fine, but it gets real bleak after that.
Yeah, I just don't like their pitching staff. I have respect for some of their hitters. I think, of course, I'm always going to love Carlos Gonzalez.
And he's old enough for you to draft now.
It's true.
I've drafted him most years rather than not.
You really got on the bandwagon when his career hit the skids, right? Rather than when it was really on the up and up.
That's not true. But anyway, I think Desmond is a lovely player. I love LeMahieu. Who doesn't like Arenado? Trevor Story is feast or famine. I don't particularly like him because I don't trust him, but I understand why people do it at that position. But in the end, I just think, I'm ice cold on them too. So 80.5, I think they're like a 78 to 80 win team as well. I wouldn't be like running to the counter or to Garion's bookie to get the under, but I would take the under.
I get a referral code if he does.
Is Ian Desmond valuable as a bench player?
He's fine. It's their offensive pieces are fine on paper. They probably.
Where's David Dull? Did he get hurt again?
No, but they signed Carlos Gonzalez. Yeah. So that was a choice they decided to make. And that's the thing, they even have positional outfield depth in the minors. Like Raimel Tapia is a pretty good player too. But, not only do I not really trust like Chad Bettis and Kyle Freeland and Tyler Anderson, but Anderson's got an okay changeup. But these are pitchers who aren't just like, I don't know if these guys are good, they're inconsistent. They're just not strikeout pitchers. And if you're going to make me kind of lean to the side of like, what if a couple of these guys just run into lucky seasons? It's a lot easier to be lucky when you're strikeout pitchers. Like, Marquez is even a guy who I watch and I'm like, you should be better than you are. Like, he's one of the sort of Aaron Sanchez-esque in the, you should probably strike out more batters than you do, but you don't have an out pitch. And you just can't get anyone to swing at anything outside of the zone. But you look really good.
Bad O swing rate?
Terrible O swing rate. So they just have flawed players. And they lost a couple guys in their bullpen who they acquired last season for the stretch run.
They got Wade Davis, though.
Wade Davis is fine. But it's not as if Holland had a bad stretch in the second half, but it's not as if like Wade Davis is coming in. And again, as a closer, the best you could possibly expect from a closer in a real life capacity in terms of WAR is like a 2. And it's not as if you're going from like a net negative at closer to this extreme positive. You're going from like a slight positive to a better positive.
Well, it's better than having a negative in there.
Sure, it is, but it's not like
you got better. Looks to be a better player.
You got better, but it was in a position where we'll talk about this in a second with the Giants. They got better in a position where they were already where there were other areas of this team that needed improvement.
Okay.
I would take one capable starter in his 200 innings over the 60 innings that Wade Davis is going to pitch this season.
Can't Wade Davis go 2 innings?
They won't let him though.
Why?
Got to save his arm. If he gets hurt, who's going to close, Pat?
But they had Adam.
He got hurt.
Adam Ottavino?
Yeah, Adam Ottavino's good.
I like him too, but he had a weird year last year.
All right, San Francisco, the retooled San Francisco Giants.
I'm going to let Tim take this first.
Yeah, I know they have all of the players that he likes. Yeah. So 83.5 wins is the over-under, 6-1 to win the division, 16-1 to win the pennant, 25-1 to win the World Series. They won 64 games last year. Not good. They got Longoria. They got Andrew McCutchen. How could they lose?
Yeah, I'm not sure which is the team that's going to push Los Angeles this year in the West, but I know it'll be either They are the D-backs, and I like both teams quite a bit. I really do like the San Francisco team in that. I mean, they have solid players at every position, and that's the key. I mean, they have Bumgarner's every bit as good a pitcher as anyone else in the National League West. He's as good as Kershaw, maybe slightly worse, but he's as good probably.
As good? Garion, yes or no?
No.
No, okay.
But like he's in his stratosphere. Yeah.
It's very close.
Is it very close?
Posey's still an excellent catcher.
Is Posey an excellent catcher?
Yes.
Like as a catcher?
He's like a league average catcher,
Longoria
but like the bat he brings to the catcher position is phenomenal.
Isn't Longoria washed up?
Longoria is a lovely player.
He's a lovely player.
I really like.
Team wants to bone him.
I've always liked Joe Panik. I think he's a really gritty guy.
That makes so much sense.
Very gritty. Is he like the John McDonald of this team?
No, he's better than John
except
McDonald.
that he shows up in big spots. Brandon Belt, very competent. McCutcheon, a former National
Big
League.
spot did John McDonald ever have to be in?
No, well, that's fair.
I saw him hit a walk-off grand slam one time.
Yeah, on Father's Day after his dad died.
Off Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
Hunter Pence is a professional. I think that the Shark has a bounce-back year at starting pitcher. Which I said, I love Bumgarner. I love Johnny Cueto. Everything this team. I mean, I just absolutely adore this team. So there's significant value on them. 6-1 division, value on them at the pennant, value with them on the wild card. I would recommend betting all three. I'm not saying I think any of those three things are going to happen. However, again, I
But
think
they're free money.
The thing is, the National League is stacked. There are like 7 or 8 teams that I think are playoff caliber, and San Francisco is amongst them.
Okay,
so I think that if they're the team that pushes the Dodgers, and they could, I think there's significant value in all of those bets. Man, this is a good team.
The Giants are the early front runner in the National League for being by far the most cursed team.
I think they're, again, going to be better than they were last season. I talked about...
Thanks for the hot take.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying,
wins.
I came on and talked about the Jeff Samardzija, normalization case, and a lot of that was in the win total from last season, that they'll be a better team. They're projected to be around an 84, 83 win team, so right at this number. I'm going to take the under, though, because...
They're cursed?
They're cursed. Also, they did go out and sign... Tim's right in saying this is a team that decided...
They went out and signed a bunch of rigor mortis, is what they did.
Okay. You are correct when you say that McCutcheon and Longoria are on the second half of their careers. And
I would have more faith in Andrew McCutcheon having a decent year. I'm not convinced Longoria is good anymore.
He's fine. He's he's at the very least a 2-win player.
Oh, I was gonna say he's VORP 0.
No.
Are we into VORP again yet? Are
No.
stats cyclical?
No.
Like technology
Unfortunately
is?
not, no.
We'll just come back around to VORP at some point?
Batting average is going to start looking real good in a couple years.
Tim's all in on batting average. That's the only thing that matters.
That's why he likes Joe Panik. No, like, Longoria is far better than what they had at third base last season, where we talked about the Rockies improving a position that they were already okay in last season. The Giants were horrendous at third base.
Who was their third baseman? Who were
their
their collection of third base?
By the end of the year, Pablo Sandoval was playing
their
third base.
Their collection of cronies at third base.
Like, you could put me at third base. I do a better job than Pablo Sandoval.
Untrue, because we've witnessed you try to catch things. You're like George Michael from Arrested Development. You throw the ball away and you're like, ah!
But
excellent.
They were also one of the worst defensive teams in baseball last season. And while Longo is still, again, about a replacement level defensive player at third base,
it's significantly improved.
That is significant. Well, they weren't terrible at third base. Like, at least some of the guys they were putting out there in a, sort of filling capacity were decent
Even
defenders.
Flablo Sandifat?
Not Flablo Sandifat. But center field was where they were horrendous. They had a negative 32 defensive runs saved in center field, which was 15 full runs worse than any other team in baseball. And they decided to fix this problem by...
With Action Jackson.
Austin Jackson, who, again, is a slightly below average defensive center fielder, but, is better than that. But he's still not good. And Andrew McCutcheon, if they decide to put Kutch in center field at any point, might have actually been worse than the Giants' collection of center fielders in center. Andrew McCutcheon should not be anywhere close to center field. If he starts running in the direction of center field, you stop him.
You get one of those dog collars on him?
Yeah.
With the invisible fences? You can't run past here.
Don't do it. He's terrible.
Yeah,
He's a bad defensive center fielder.
The Giants elected to build a team to try to win right away, to win this year. They have, in my opinion, they have the best manager in baseball, and they certainly have the best director and conductor of the bullpen in Bruce Bochy. So I have complete confidence in him to be able to make the right mixing and matching throughout the season. I just think they built the right team for the right park with the right manager. I just think all signs are pointing in a positive direction for them. I know it'll be chic to say, oh, well, they've got all these old players. How could they do any well? Well, again, San Francisco, year after year, when they're counted out, tend to bounce back.
I think they're fine. I think
they're being counted out. Their win total is 83.5.
I think they're a team that probably is going to win.
I think
81
I
games.
think that their win total is overinflated because they signed names.
Yes, and I think that they're a team. Tim's right in their approach as a franchise was correct.
It's not though, because they have one of the 3 best teams in baseball in their division. So they're playing for a one play-in wild card game.
But again, they're a team that's going to make money.
They have won the World Series out of before.
Sure, that's not a great strategy to take.
As a business,
they're trying to win their 4th World Series in 9 years and becoming the dynasty of the 21st.
They're a team their window is closing, and they decided they're going to take one more crack at it. So in that capacity, I'm not fully against this.
I'm not sold.
Neither am I. I'm taking the under. Because I also look at this rotation, and as much as I like Jeff Samardzija, as much as I think that Madison Bumgarner is a fantastic starting pitcher, I think Johnny Cueto's done.
What about Ty? Is it Ty Black or Ty Black?
Blah.
Ty Black?
Blah, because he sucks. I don't like, and Chris Stratton, I believe, is their 5th pitcher. Great. Fantastic.
Oh, they do have Mark Mayo.
Yeah, and he got hurt last season.
Acquire a 4th or 5th starter if needs must.
If they're good enough to do so, but if they don't get out of the gates to a good start, they might just not. They might just go we made a mistake here. Again, I think Cueto's like Felix Hernandezing right now. Like he's done. It's over with Johnny Cueto. He's losing velocity. He's already doing that thing where Cueto has always been like a control freak.
They have assembled quite a collection of dreads on this team, though.
Yeah.
Does McCutcheon still have his, or did he cut them?
No, he cut them off.
See that he lost out. He's like Samson.
Yeah.
All right, so
he probably wasn't aware.
Under for you. Very cursed over for Tim. I'm on the under. Too many names. Don't like it. Arizona, another team Tim perennially picks to be the over. Hit it last year, 93-69. They're 85.5 projected win total this season for plus 425 to win the division, 10-1 to win the pennant, 20-1 to win the World Series. Tim, you're the Mr. Diamondbacks every single year. What do you think?
I don't know if I'm Mr. Diamondbacks.
You pick them over every year.
I don't know if I even do that every year.
You do. You pick it every year.
Last 3 years, I think.
I'd say at least the last 5.
Okay.
I like their team, and I the same sort of general logical apply here as it did to San Francisco, in that if they could be the pace setter or the team to compete against the Dodgers, and if so, there's a little less value on them at the division for reasons that aren't apparent to me, but still the pennant and the World Series, I would still take all 3 of those bets. I think if you were to play the season out at least 5 times, I think the D-backs would probably steal the division at least once. So there's a little bit of value to be had there. I mean, they have probably the best hitter in the National League at first base.
Yeah, but not anymore. He's only going to hit 3 home runs because there's a humidor. Haven't you heard the internet?
I don't think the humidor matters much, if anything. And until we see that it actually matters, we can't start pretending like it's...
You know what's cursed? Humidor.
That's sort of silly. I mean, Greinke had a bounce-back year. He proved he's still a top-line pitcher, and no reason not to believe that won't continue. Listen, they have other guys who are really Patrick Corbin is a marvelous pitcher. Robbie Ray is a great pitcher. So they have some real talent in there. They have A.J. Pollock. Who doesn't like A.J. Pollock? The other parts of their outfield are...
No, his doctor actually probably really likes A.J. Pollock.
Paying them bills.
Yeah.
Other parts are kind of sketchy. But, I mean, I don't think they're as good as San Francisco taken as a whole.
I mean, I look at this team.
I
look at the lineup, and I look at the pitching staff, and they seem like they're way better than San Francisco.
Over. They're better. They're better than San Francisco. They're better.
I mean, San Francisco has one pitcher who's way better than anyone. I mean, how much better is Bumgarner than Greinke? I would say that he's better.
He's better.
Greinke.
Here's the thing I'll say about this.
Okay, is Bumgarner closer to Kershaw or is he closer to Greinke?
Kershaw.
Okay.
But that might say more about Greinke than it says about Bumgarner.
Okay, but the top to bottom, their staff.
This is what I'm saying. I would say definitively right now this is the best rotation in baseball. And I'm not even sold on Zach Greinke.
You've always hated Zach Greinke. That's nothing new.
It's not that I've always hated Zach Greinke.
He should have won the Silver Slugger. That guy hits dings.
He does. No, I think that Greinke is someone who I think he's a very solid pitcher. I think you're right in saying that any team that has Zach Greinke as their ace is in a situation that's probably a good situation. There's nothing wrong with having Zach Greinke as your best pitcher.
But he's number 3, isn't he? He'll start opening day, but in terms of actual talent, is he really their best pitcher?
They don't need him to be this top 10 pitcher because Robbie Ray is fantastic. Zach Godley is amazing. I really like Patrick Corbin. I just think they have a great rotation.
And with the humidor, they'll give up 0 runs all year.
Yeah, they'll be great. No one will ever hit a ball out of the infield. It'll be fantastic. I don't get this number. That's the only thing that worries me about this.
I can tell you, because the number's so low.
Yeah, it just seems low.
I can give you an easy explanation to why.
Because the world thinks the Dodgers are going to win like 112 games.
And there is enough people like Tim who just think San Francisco got better. They win World Series, so they go over.
It's possible.
Diamondbacks not good. I don't know their guys. I know Evan Longoria.
Well, yeah.
I don't know a ton about the Suze. The Suze is on the team now.
The Suze is on the team.
Are anticipated to win half their games, so people.
Susie.
But they have an interesting, like, in terms of their depth even, like, on this team, like, offensively, Yasmani Tomas is a really interesting player who's just on their bench. They've got Gerard Dyson.
To come in and steal some bases.
And also if they need someone to play D in center, like, that's a massive outfield.
So what you're saying is that we're going to see a lot of double switches from the Diamondbacks. Tim, you should be all in on that.
I am. I'm taking their over. I would not be shocked if they were the team that won the division or at least pace set it against the Dodgers, who I'm actually kind of down on this year, as we'll get to in a moment.
Well, it's funny because this is one of these things where the over-under for them is 85.5. It's only 2 more than San Francisco, but they're significantly lower odds to win the division. They're 10-1 to win the pennant instead of 16.
Well, we didn't talk about the Colorado thing, which is Colorado has better odds to win the pennant than San Francisco does.
Yeah, that's really the weirdest one. Why do you think that is?
Again, and even when you put it out there on Twitter, is this coming out today? Can I say last night? Whatever.
It'll come out tomorrow.
You just did, so.
Yeah, it doesn't matter now.
It might come out on Friday. I don't know.
Regardless, when you put out there before we did this, hey, here are the over/under totals. What do you guys like? It seemed like the resounding answer was, oh, you got to bet Colorado. That number's too low. And
that was like 2 people.
I think it was more than enough people where I think that Colorado has this perception, and people still look at Coors and just go, oh, they're going to lead the league in runs.
They might.
I don't know, they might, but like again, they are a flawed offensive team in certain aspects.
Well, I mean, you have to think that how many games do they play in Arizona this year?
They'll play
9
or 10.
They'll play 9 or 10, so you got 0 runs for those games.
That's true.
I mean, they'll probably still be playing them because they'll be 0-0.
Again, I feel like this is a strong division, and I think that people think that Colorado and Arizona both kind of fill that a young team that's taking steps and that should continue to get better kind of role. And I think that people are going to look at that Colorado number and want to take the over because Colorado scores runs. How could they not win games?
Well, here's the whole thing. This is what Garion's talking about. 80.5 wins for Colorado. Their division is 6.5. Pennant is 11. And the World Series is 22. When you look at San Francisco, they're 6-1 to win the division, slightly better. Just marginally better than Colorado, but they're 16-1 to win the pennant as opposed to the 11-1 for Colorado and 25-1 to win the World Series as opposed to 22 for Colorado. So it leads me to believe that what happened was they set this Colorado number, and maybe you're right, and so many people bet the over that they're seeing a lot of tickets on the World Series as opposed to San Francisco and everything like that, so they had to drop those numbers. You can't change the over-under.
No.
And only in football can you change the over-under somehow.
And it's surprising because you look at San Francisco, and again, I don't think San Francisco is going to make the playoffs this year, but if you're someone who thinks along the lines of Tim and thinks they're going to be good, we've seen how Bochy can adjust his staff in a playoff run to maximize his best players, sort of like Francona did with the Indians a couple years back, where you go, let's just take our 3 best players and make sure they're pitching more than half the time.
Smart.
And Bochy will very much do that, where, again, if Colorado gets in a 7-game series with, let's just say, Arizona, that can't actually happen, but
it could.
No.
They could play each other in like
I guess they could,
the
could.
NL.
Yeah, it's true, the semi. Yeah, it's true. But if they get in a series with Arizona, aside from John Gray starts, and Gray will probably have to go up against Robbie Ray or Greinke, what games are they favored to win from a pitching perspective? None. Like, I don't think Colorado's a team built for the playoffs in the sense of their pitching staff.
So you would have more faith in the over than the winning the pennant of World Series?
Oh, yeah. But I also don't have faith in the over.
So
I would just ignore it
double over on Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona's one of the teams I feel strongest about.
Okay.
Over.
The Dodgers, projected win total, over under, 97.5. That was real high.
It's high.
104-58 last year, minus 175 to win the division. Plus 240 to win the pennant, 6-1 to win the World Series. They are the favorite in the National League, unless Washington's better. No, they are not.
No.
So it's them, the Cubs, then Washington in terms of favorites in the National League. whenever I see one of these big numbers, I no matter how good a team is,
It's hard to win 100 games.
It's hard to win 100 games, especially with the way that the Dodgers can manipulate everything
Yep.
and be like, oh, Clayton Kershaw is mysteriously on the 4-day DL all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's going to be out a month because we are up by 70 games and we don't want him to pitch.
Yeah, I mean, that's I'm going to take the under, and that's basically the reason. I think much in the conversation we had about the Cubs and the way that Joe Madden just is like, I don't know, I can pretty much do whatever I want here and we're going to still win 90 games. I think if there is an Arizona or San Francisco push where the Dodgers kind of have to take things seriously to avoid a one-game playoff, maybe they do have to do certain things. But I think they're going to have a pretty comfortable lead in this division like they did last season. I think they're going to be able to experiment with what they want to do with their rotation and the back end of their bullpen. They do have a lot of depth at starting pitchers. So if Kershaw can't go, obviously no one is Kershaw on a game-to-game basis. But they've got capable pitchers. They've got capable guys who can win games for this team. The rest of their rotation is pretty solid. I think losing Justin Turner for 2 months is obviously going to hurt them a lot. So yeah, I just think it's an under. It's nothing really against their talent level. They are obviously,
You would
I
pick
would
them to
say,
win the
top
division.
to bottom. I think there's a reason they're the World Series favorite in the National League.
One of these good teams is going to be awful. That happens every year.
I don't know if they're going to be awful.
No, I'm not saying it's going to be them.
I do think one of them is going to miss the playoffs, but it's not in this division.
Yeah. No, I think I would take the under, but again, that's more about just winning 98 games is a commitment, and I don't know if they're going to necessarily have to have that commitment.
Tim?
I feel the same way, and it's similar to what I thought when it came with the Cubs, is that I think there are teams that could challenge them, but in the end, while I'll take the under, I do think they'll probably end up eking out the division. I think it'll be very close. I think they win it by like a game or two, not by a lot. Take it.
Are you taking the Dodgers to win the division,
Yeah.
Garion? All right, so Dodgers. All right, NL East. Let's get to it. The Miami Marlins over under 65.5 wins. The division 75-1. That's big. 75-1 to win the division.
Yeah, they're bad.
The
though.
pennant 125. World Series 250. Their record last year 77-85. If I were to make a bet on Miami, it would be 75-1 to win the division. If they're only getting 125 to win the pennant, you think the 75-1 to beat the four other teams.
Yeah.
Not that it's going to happen.
It's not gonna happen.
But just value-wise, that's a much better value than to bet
Yes.
them to win the pennant.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
Who's even left on this team?
Let's see. You've
They
got,
acquired Starlin Castro.
They got Castro. They got Urena. They have JT Realmuto.
Better than JT Fake Muto.
Much better. Straley's all right.
Oh, Leone's going to play him every week.
I mean,
On
high
DraftKings.
swinging strike rate. Yeah, I don't know. Like this is an avoid for me just because this number is so low.
I want to take one of these garbage low numbers and
I
bet
think
the
the
over.
team.
Like it's,
I've got a team in the American
We'll get to
League.
them, but like
We'll get
are
to
Atlanta
them.
and Philly really 10 wins better than Miami?
Yes,
Yes, Miami's bad.
Miami's really bad.
Are Philly and Atlanta any good?
I'm gonna be upset.
I like Philadelphia.
Yeah, I
though.
know. I was gonna say I'm upset that I'm gonna be eating the Philly chalk here, but I'm in on Philly. And Atlanta's got at least young pieces who I'm like, they're actually good players. They're just young. Where Miami's like, wow, everything, even just everything they do as an organization is so ham-headed, and they're just, it's pathetic. Like I want them to lose. I want them to be sad.
That's mean.
But at the same time, are they really going to lose 100 games? That's hard to do, too.
And that's my whole thinking. And when you get these super low numbers, isn't it like you can basically fluke into say if you put a AAA team in baseball, they could win
And here's
60
the thing.
games.
Consistently,
And this is basically a AAA team.
consistently, the National League East has been the worst division in the National League. And I think it's very clear that it's going to be the worst division again this year. And I know that we'll get into the Mets in a second, but like the Mets are a boom or bust team. Like if the Mets stay healthy, sure, they could be a good team. But if the Mets, it's not very likely, but it's on the table of probability that the Mets just have a rash of injuries again and are bad. And by August and July are just throwing out a AAA team like they did last year. It's very possible the Braves are just a team with players that are a year away from being established major league players. They're going to be bad. It's possible we're all overrating the Phillies. So there's a situation here where Miami just plays 57 games against bad teams.
That's what I'm saying about the 65.5 over.
So if I had to pick something here, I would take the over. But I'm not putting money on Miami to be successful. That's just not a great situation to be in.
And Tim, you're going under 65. Like, what do you think their record's going to be?
Like 62 and 100, something like that. Like there will likely be a 100 loss team in the senior circuit. I think this is it.
Was there any 100 loss teams last year? There wasn't.
I don't think there was, no.
I believe Philadelphia lost 60.
No, Philly lost 96.
Philly lost 96 games.
I don't think there's been a 100 loss team since the Astros. I might be wrong. I might be wrong about that.
Bad.
But I'm thinking like Astros, and then before that, the Royals had a stretch in the early 2000s where they were very bad.
So then they need let's say they're not going to lose 100 games. So right there's 61 wins.
There's
so they need to fluke into 5 more wins.
Right there, there's only
all it
3
takes is a real hot April.
Yeah.
And then they've got it.
Yeah. Again, I would think the smart way to bet this is to take the over. I just wouldn't bet it. It's not something I feel like.
I'll parlay it with the San Francisco
Then you might
under.
have to care about the Marlins at all this season, and that's just not a fun way to play.
All right, Philadelphia. 76.5 wins is the over/under. 12-1 to win the division. 50-1 for the pennant. 100-1 to win the World Series. They were 66 and 96 a season ago. They did just sign Jake Arrieta. That has to help.
Yeah, I mean,
and they have Aaron Nola, Vince Velasquez.
Yeah, he might
Remember
not
when
be
he was
good.
the best pitcher in fantasy for like 2 weeks?
But in the sense that, as we talked about,
and his name, it just sounds like a cologne.
It's a great name.
Vince.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Velasquez.
Oh no, Vince.
That's fair too. In the way that we were talking about the back end of the Rockies rotation, where could Chad Bettis be good? Sure.
Isn't he like their number 2 starter?
He is. That's again, this is the problem. Could Chad Bettis be good? Sure. But like, wouldn't you be more inclined to think that he definitely could be good if he had strikeouts on his side? Velasquez could be awful. But at the same time, he at least has the skill set to be a capable major league pitcher. And not just a capable one, but one who is actually quite good. We saw that is on the spectrum of possibility, that Vince Velasquez is a guy who can win you games in tight spots.
Can he, though? Because it just seems like he's going to pitch 4 innings a game.
He could be terrible. He could be Clay Buchholz. But the potential is at least there for him to be something more than he is. I don't see that in the back end of the rotations of a lot of teams. And they just added capable pieces where they needed to add capable pieces. I mean, Arrieta is a solid guy to just add to your team 2 weeks before the season starts. Carlos Santana is a very capable player, a guy who's going to get on base. He's going to draw his walks. He's going to set the table for just some young but very good bats in their lineup.
Like Maikel Franco, who hits dings.
And I think Maikel Franco's in line for a bounce-back season. I think Pat Neshek, just as like a guy to get to the 9th, is a very capable, good. I don't generally like buying relievers.
People like Neris too, though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, Neshek's a good guy to like bridge that gap. Like, I think.
Neris.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a very public team this year. It worries me a little bit because I think everyone's going to be taking the over here. But I like the over. Yeah.
And Tim, you love the Phillies.
I don't love them. I like the over. By the way, the 2016 Twins were the last team to lose 100.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Another hot sleeper team.
And then they made the playoffs the next season. So, anyway.
And then you Ender cursed them.
I take no responsibility.
It was early. It was an early Ender curse. Although he
claimed it was over after the top half of the first inning.
Yep. 3-0. Insurmountable lead.
And out hadn't been recorded yet. I think that, there's like a 78 to 80 win team that maybe burgeons on 500. So I'm kind of tepidly in favor of their over. I don't think they're a division team. I don't think that they're a pennant team or World Series team. But I think we see. Listen, if they were to win 11 or 12 more games from last season, that's some significant improvement for a team that's slowly turning the ship of state around. So, yeah, I don't mind this team.
I just don't see how they're good.
How do you mean?
They have good young players.
I think Cesar Hernandez is like one of the most underappreciated. He's actually, in the last 2 seasons, he's got the 2nd highest combined WAR of any second baseman. Like, he's a very capable player. He gets on base. He doesn't strike out. You pair him with Santana and Hoskins, and now you've got this, like, I don't want to say they're like St. Louis in the sense that they're a team that's going to have a lot of offensive potential out of the top of their lineup, but they've got a sneaky good lineup. And if Franco can turn it around in any capacity, and he's still really young, and I think he was someone who, from a BABIP perspective last season, was pretty unlucky. If they get anything just even sort of resembling like the 2016 full of promise Maikel Franco, I think they're going to be pretty good.
All right.
They're like Tim said, I don't think they're a team where you go, like, if you like the over, you might as well bet the division. Like, I'm not that.
Yeah, they're not the Marlins.
Yeah, they're not the Marlins.
Well, considering the Phillies are
Yeah, it's
12
to 1, yeah,
not 75 to 1.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, the Atlanta Braves sent down their best player
One could make that argument.
to the minors.
No, Freddie Freeman's their best player.
All right, so their second best player they sent to the minors. That's never a good thing. Their over-under is 75.5. They won 72 games last year, 10-1 to win the division, 40 to win the pennant, 80 to win the World Series. Again, they will not start the year with their second best player. Smart move on their part.
Ozzie Albies is also on the team. He's also very good.
Albies the racist dragon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they have Kurt Suzuki as a backup catcher.
Hey,
Sick.
Their catching platoon last season was one of the most valuable positional platoons in the league.
So they have Kurt Suzuki and they have Tyler Automatic Flowers.
Yeah, who is the best the best pitch framer in baseball.
Sweet.
And also was very, very, like Kurt Suzuki, again, you look for like the slight tangible things to believe in someone getting better. Like he did change not only his approach at the plate, but his bat, his grip. Like, and he hit the cover off the ball.
He's also going to be like 35 soon.
But they only need him to play 81 games. They basically split that right down the middle. I kind of like what they do. That's one of my like daily sort of DFS MLB things that I love is just Braves catcher.
All right, over or under on the 75.5 for Atlanta? Sounds like an
slight under. Just because if you like the Phillies, I mean the Mets are a whole thing, but like I think they're the second worst team in this division, so I'm just going to take the slight under. But I don't feel confident at this one.
Tim, are you buying back in on your main man, Julio Teheran?
He's so bad.
I'm not. I mean, I feel the same with Garion. Like, this is like a 75-win team, so a very slight under.
But they have your main man, Dansby Swanson. He sounds like he wears jaunty chapeaus.
But he could just be, Dansby Swanson could just be okay this season. Like, he's someone with a very high pedigree. Who just got moved through the system too quickly.
I like a lot.
Markakis.
Again, when we're talking win totals, though, like Markakis is someone who's like a solid major league caliber player.
We don't expect any decline now that he's almost 35 as well.
It wasn't like he was at the top of this mountain that he's going to fall off of. He was like on a slight anthill. So he falls off, he's like, whatever. But
Fulton Evans is a very capable pitcher. Like, they have good players, but in the end, I just think that there's another team in this division that's just going to play significantly better, and I just don't like them.
All right, so let's get
to that team.
Let's get to that team. Already the most the most cursed team of last season.
Yeah, it doesn't even. At no point did it stop. There was no break for the.
There was no break from the curse last year for the poor New York Mets.
No.
And what does Tim do? Jumps right back on their bandwagon this year. So Tim, please tell us.
Can I ask Tim before you start?
Oh yes.
How heavily and how earnestly have you tracked the Steven Matz and Matt Harvey look good in spring training storyline?
Basically, I have Google Alerts set up.
Yeah.
Do you know how to set up a Google alert?
I know how to do things.
Do you know how to do that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you please tell me how to do it?
You don't worry about it.
Just know it has good SEO value.
So the very cursed Mets, 81.5 is the over/under. 250 to win the division, 2.5 to 1 to win the division, 16 to 1 to win the pennant, 33 to 1 to win the World Series. They won 70 games last year. That's what the curse will do to you. I'm throwing it out there. I haven't made any picks so far. Under on the Mets.
Well, they're just the
curse
fact they won.
Is what they are.
It's true. The fact they won 70 games last season speaks to what I was talking about, where they are the type of team. They probably have the highest variance of any team in baseball.
Yeah, if they get hurt, they suck.
Yeah, there's no like slight drop off for this team. Either you believe that, Noah Syndergaard, who I do think is a top 3 pitcher in baseball when healthy, you have to believe he's going to pitch 200 innings. I don't know if he's going to do that. Like maybe 175. Even that would be like an.
But they have Jose Reyes.
Yeah.
So Tim, take the floor on
Tim
this
can
one.
take this one.
I love this team. For example, I picked Syndergaard to win both the Cy and MVP this year in the National League.
That's fine.
Poor guy.
That's like a bet that I'm like, you know what? If the odds were right on that, that's a value bet.
Sure. It's not going to happen because he's going to blow out. You're going to have 3 Tommy John
I'm
surgeries.
just being the voice of reason and allowing you to knock down the pins that Tim is setting up for you.
If they stay healthy, this is the best rotation in baseball. They have marvelous hit. I mean, they have underrated hitters. I mean, Cespedes is a stud.
You really like edited yourself quickly on that one.
Well, I did because I think Todd Frazier's a really good player, but I appreciate he's got limitations. I think Reyes on the field is a decent player. I know he has limitations. The Struble, same way. Darno, same way. They're these were not significantly. It's not like this team had a much better hitting core in 2015 when they made the World Series. Like
it was all pitching.
It was all pitching.
And Daniel Murphy that year.
Yes, and Daniel Murphy went nuts in the playoffs.
But Daniel Murphy actually started to matter. People seem to remember that incorrectly. Murphy actually didn't become really all that relevant until the postseason.
He was really good in September, I think.
Late in the year, he made up a charge, and of course, great in the playoffs, and then great last year for Washington because he's just a really good player. They have a great pitcher. Then 2 years later, the next year they had significant injuries. They still made their way into the playoffs because they just were able to make their way through. Last year was like a weird, unanticipated collision of terrible, unfortunate events for them.
And what do you think that had anything to do with the fact that you picked them to win the World Series?
I think it has nothing to do with the moving of my vocal cords. No, I don't think I affected anything.
Oh, it's not just your vocal cords. You try to will it so much into existence that it just goes the other way.
I mean, I don't even hold any brief for the Mets. I just think that they're a really good team. I think I'm picking them to win the division. I like the division odds. I'll pick them to win the pennant because if they have their pitching is that they're the type of team that you get. No one wants to see them healthy in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
They're incredibly dangerous. And I would pick them. I would bet them the World Series, but I'm certainly not going to pick them to win the World Series or the pennant for that matter. But I will pick them to win the division. I would bet them pennant. I'd bet them World Series. I think this team wins 90 to 93 games. I think it's the strongest over I have in the National League.
Here's the thing. Everything he just said is not insane, which I know is a little crazy to say. But this is a team where I look at the pennant odds of 16-1 and just like he put out there, if they stay healthy, this is a team built to succeed in the playoffs. This is a team built to succeed in a 7-game series. Their pitching is incredible.
Their average player in their lineup.
Oh, is super old.
Yeah. Except for Ahmed Rosario, who's 22.
Yeah, but again, I personally am staying so clear of this total.
No, there's a very clear bet here. It's under. They're very undercursed.
Fair.
Parlay them with the Giants under, and you're going to win all the monies.
Again, they are the highest variance team in baseball this season. Just for that sheer fact alone, I am not betting the over-under. But 16-1 for the pennant is an interesting one just if everything goes right for them, which could definitely happen. I'm not saying it will, but it could happen. I do think that the spring training success of Matt Harvey and Steven Matz, I'm probably more buying into the success of Matz than I am of Harvey. Until I see it with Harvey.
So good, though.
Oh, so good.
They're so sick in the preseason.
Until I see it from Matt Harvey in a game that means something in the regular season, it doesn't mean anything to me. Matz, I'm kind of intrigued by it just because Matz, I think, still has a little potential.
Random Thursday in March because they have to open the baseball season in March for no good reason on a Thursday, which nobody wants.
I think I like this. I like that every team is playing on that Thursday. You don't like that?
It should be on a Monday. That's the way it's supposed to work.
Well, I think back to last year. That's not how it worked. So they're really breaking tradition.
The first Monday in April. Starting at Cincinnati and then working through the whole day. That's the way the game is supposed to be.
I was going to say, though,
who are you to say how anything's supposed to be played? You know, Major League Baseball has a message for you, Tim. Go fuck yourself.
Major League Baseball, I'm sure it's far more sympathetic.
Be fast as you do it.
I think.
Yeah, speed it up.
Yeah, speed it up, though. No, but I would say in a vacuum, Tim, do you like that all 30 teams play on opening day?
Tim doesn't understand the mechanics of a vacuum or own a vacuum. His floor is just littered with microwave bits of, like, macaroni. Can't scoop that shit up.
Well, no, because then you'd have to wash your one fork.
Yeah.
Ha, 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 ha. I do like that all 30 teams are playing. I think the fact they're playing on a Thursday is tragic. That they're starting in March for no reason is tragic.
I really think you're overusing the word tragic here, Tim. What are other things that are tragic that you would spring to mind?
I don't know.
Like the murder of babies? But you think the fucking baseball season is tragic? Go fuck yourself.
I'm obviously being hyperbolic.
Well, why don't you keep it to the facts here, Tim? Say what you mean. Don't talk in metaphors.
I'm not talking in metaphors. You've lost it.
Tragic. Get over yourself. It's fucking baseball.
It's annoying, put it that way. It is quite annoying. For those of us who have, again, some respect for something that's existed well before us.
You have a whole lot of respect and care a whole lot about shit that doesn't matter.
Well, it doesn't matter to you. Because God forbid, something doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter to anybody
else. It's fucking baseball!
I wanted to start as soon as possible.
It's a schedule in baseball! Who cares?
The national pastime. It means something.
It's not even your fucking nationality!
No, but it matters.
No, but it matters to me. It's tragic. Cincinnati get the first game. I don't like this, but I'll watch every game.
I won't watch every game. I mean, a lot like you, I haven't followed baseball as closely the last couple of years as I used to.
That is my favorite part about opening week of the baseball season is people actually being like, "Oh wow, baseball's back," and they're all watching every game, and then a week later, no one cares about baseball anymore.
I mean,
I do,
watch, but you know, I'm not. Listen, I'm far more now invested in the NFL draft than I have been in quite a while. So for the month of April, I'll be in my bunker.
Hard under on the Mets.
Again, I'm steering clear. I would say I'm going to take the slight over, but I am not betting this in any capacity.
Come play with us, Garion.
The Nationals. Shut up! I'm trying to move on. The Nationals, 92.5, minus
Under.
200, 4.5 to win the pennant, 10 to 1 to win the World Series, 97 wins last season. Seems like a low number.
Yeah.
Because the Mets are so sick.
I guess there's some built-in regression for just Gio Gonzalez probably won't be that good again.
Yeah, Bryce Harper could be better.
But yeah, I think this is a number that I'm comfortable taking the over with the Nationals. I think they're clearly the best and most consistent team in this division. And again, this division could very easily be the Nationals and 4 other piles of shit. So when you're talking 76 games, almost half your schedule against possible just horrendousness, yeah, I think over 92.5 wins is a pretty fair way to go. Now, you could take the other side of that, much like we said with the Dodgers, where will there be a team that pushes Washington into having to be their best self in September?
Oh, that would be tragic.
It would be tragic. But, yeah, I'm very comfortable taking the over here. They're a very talented team. They have enough, even if Gio regresses a little bit, he's still like a capable every day take the hill, every 5th day take the hill kind of guy. Like, I've got no problem with Gio being a core rotation piece. And, you know, the top end of the rotation. Strasburg, I'm not going to sit here and say that I expect him to throw more than 170 innings this season, but even 170 innings of Strasburg is infinitely valuable and will probably garner somewhere in the realm of 16 to 17 wins.
Good.
So
And Tim, you're on the under because the Mets are too good?
I think they're a crash out team. Bryce Harper's got 1 foot out the door. We'll see how invested he is.
Just like Le'Veon Bell. 1 foot out the door. Can't be good. Won't even try this year.
That there isn't a franchise tag that you can slap on Bryce. I mean, I think he's on his way out. Listen, I like some of their young players, like Trey Turner. I think he's an amazing player. I have an affinity for Daniel Murphy. I don't say young player, but I like Daniel Murphy.
I feel like Adam Eaton's your guy.
I have always liked Adam Eaton.
Yeah.
I think they have some very interesting players. I'm sorry, I don't trust anyone in their bullpen not named Matt Scherzer. Or in their pitching rotation, not named Matt Scherzer. I just don't. I've never trusted Strasburg.
But again, if you know Strasburg's healthy for a game,
it better be 76 degrees outside and sunny because that's the only time he wins.
But how can you say this right after picking the Mets to win 95 games? Like,
put it this way, I've seen
because I envision it.
I've seen the Mets.
Steven Strasburg was incredible last season.
I mean, yes, he was. If the Nationals make the playoffs, they have no chance to win the pennant and no chance to win the World Series.
We're talking about regular season 93 wins. Can they win 93? Okay, fair.
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're a crash out team. I think there's 7 or 8 teams that can make the playoffs in the National League as musical chairs. I'm keeping them out. I think you got to pick one team to be down on. That's it. I don't trust their makeup. I don't like anyone other than Scherzer. And that I don't trust Strasburg whatsoever. I just think this is a team with a lot of internal conflict that'll roil in a way that I don't anticipate it with others. And I'm big on the Mets. I kind of like the Phillies a little bit too. So Washington is like an 88-win team, and that doesn't get you in.
I feel like they had internal conflict that year that their closer choked Bryce Harper. I think they still made the playoffs that year.
I think they did, and then they fell apart. Actually, I don't know if they made the playoffs that year.
Yeah, they might. I think that might have been the year they missed.
The year the Mets won the division.
Yeah, that is that year. Yeah, that's why. That's
too much internal conflict.
So
Can't win. Mets gonna win the World Series.
No.
I didn't say that.
But again, to come back to this point, 16 to 1 to win the pennant for the Mets is not a crazy bet.
I like the Marlins.
If you're looking for a value, but that's not going to win.
Yeah,
that's
it
just
is.
value
Marlins
for the
over.
sake of
Yeah,
value.
that's Marlins
Marlins over? Yeah.
65 and a half.
It's fine. It's.
Would you say that the Mets over is free money, Tim?
Yes, I would say it's free money.
Would you say it's tragic if they don't get over the number?
It would be in a lot of ways that if the Mets have another lost season, this pitching staff put together, maybe the best since the 1970s Orioles or the Braves in the 90s. To only have gotten to one World Series.
Orioles.
Only to have gotten to one World Series and to have, it would be unfortunate to see the potential not realized.
They got to the World Series.
You got to a World Series, yes.
It's hard to get to the
That's
World
hard.
Series.
It's really hard in baseball to get to the World Series.
I agree that it is, but with this team, you'd like to see them do a little better. You'd like to see them accomplish a little more.
Yeah, those scrappy New York fans certainly do need something to cheer for.
I have them losing the National League Championship Series.
All right, so let's get to the playoff predictions. You guys went chalk at each of the.
No, I didn't.
Well, it's the Mets.
Oh, you picked the Mets to win the division. So Garion, you went Dodgers, Cubs, Nationals. Tim, you went Dodgers, Cubs, Mets. Who were the two wild card teams?
Arizona and the Cardinals.
And the Cardinals. Tim?
The Cardinals and the Giants are the wild card teams.
Okay, and who plays in the NLCS?
I picked the San Francisco Giants to defeat the New York Mets in the National League Championship Series.
Wow.
Garion?
Mine's pretty chalky, but I'm going to pick the Dodgers to beat the Nationals.
Okay. Awards. NL MVP. Garion.
NL MVP.
We already heard Tim. He's picking Syndergaard for Cy Young and MVP.
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper. So, Tim, you are going Syndergaard for both?
I am indeed.
Cy Young?
Join us, Garion.
I'd like to see the odds because I think Syndergaard's a nice value pick.
We're not just.
But on a straight pick, Scherzer.
All right. Who are you taking for the Silver Slugger at pitcher?
Pitcher. Bumgarner.
Bumgarner.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah. This bit certainly hasn't gotten old already. We'll take Greinke.
Okay. I'll take Adam Wainwright.
It's boring. Again, there's so many games in baseball. I just feel like the cream rises to the top.
You think this is the exciting league?
No, I'm saying it's boring to pick who I think will win. But chalk succeeds in baseball.
Let me ask you this. The staff that Tim just mentioned, the Mets pitching staff, generationally good. Is it better than the Halladay, Hamels, Cliff Lee rotation that the Phillies had? Which was pretty dominant. Also,
Roy Oswalt was on
and
that
Royals.
team too.
The Rays also, in the late aughts, had a 5-man rotation that was just good.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's so quickly become a different game. You go back and you look at Roy Halladay's numbers.
230 innings.
Well, but he's also someone who's over the course of 230 innings struck out 160 guys. And I think he could still pitch the way he wanted to pitch nowadays. I think when you're that good, you can dictate what type of game you want to play. But it's a different type of staff. But I do think at the point they all were, that was Lee in his prime, Halladay in his prime, Hamels in his prime. Oswalt was maybe getting towards the end there a little bit, but still very good. Where with this Mets team, if you pick and choose, okay, I'll take 2016 Noah Syndergaard with 2015 Matt Harvey, with 2021 Steven Matz. I don't know. It's a little more scattershot. Jacob deGrom's always really good. Go Jacob deGrom.
You like DeGrom?
But he cut his hair. Something to watch for.
So he's going to have McCutcheon syndrome.
There you go.
Too bad. All right, that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. National League win totals. Like to thank Garion. You can follow him at Garion Thorne on Twitter, of course. You can always follow Tim Andergust.
Tim Andergust.
That is not my name.
Heard it was.
You heard lies.
And remember, Mets, very cursed. Also, give the episode a like, sub to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, tune in, Spotify, any place where you can download podcasts. You can get the Pat Mayo Experience for free. Check the description for all the links. The MLB Draft Kit and the American League will be coming soon. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.